Abdo. I'll be serving as zoning administrator for this meeting. I'm senior associate planner with the city of Monterey. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 3:20. Jennifer, could you announce the presence of city staff members?
City staff present are Planning Manager Hill, Senior Associate Planner Sabdo, Associate Planner Buggart, Recording Secretary Cleary, and Administrative Assistant Arganbright.
Okay. I'd like to open it up for public comments for items not on the agenda. Could you let us know how we can participate?
Yes, members of the public are encouraged to join our meetings via Zoom Gov, a secure service that connects you live with no lag time. This meeting is also usually streamed live on YouTube.com and Comcast channel 25. If you would like to provide public comment, please join the meeting via Zoom or by telephone, making sure to join in time to accommodate delays. To join Zoom meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864, toll free, then enter the webinar ID. The webinar ID for zoning administration is 160-666-5889. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name typed into Zoom. Public commenters will be muted until it is their time to speak. Please turn off TV or computer speakers or go to another room while connected, as background noise interferes with the broadcast. Public speakers will be called upon in order of hands raised. There is a 3-minute time limit for today's meeting. Please stay within that time limit.
Thank you. Does anyone here have any public comments for items not on the agenda today? And do we have anyone on Zoom?
I see no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to move on to the consent agenda for the September 7th, 2023 minutes. I was the zoning administrator for this meeting. I have reviewed the minutes and approved them as written. Okay, moving on to item 3. Consideration of 443 Lighthouse use permit application UP 230179 to allow an assembly major use small group assembly. And do you have a presentation, Matthew? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Barker. I'm the associate planner with the city of Monterey Planning Division. And today we're here to talk about 443 Lighthouse Avenue for a single major use small group assembly use permit. The zoning administrator October 5th, 2022. Some background on the site. 443 Lighthouse is in the northern northwestern part of the city.
And it includes a 1.5-ish story building, and there are 2 main tenants that face the storefront along Lighthouse Avenue. The land use for the property is commercial, and the zoning is PCLH, which is Planned Community Lighthouse, which is one of our specific plan areas. The proposed use at the site is assembly use major, which is small group assembly. The distinction between major and minor for assembly use is minor assembly use would be 19 individuals and less, and major is 20 individuals and more, and the proposed number of people exceeds 20 in the space. The assembly would include a variety of guided fitness classes by contracted instructors and may include classes such as yoga, Latin dance, Zumba, and other fitness groups. Amplified sound would be included, particularly for the dance classes, and a principally permitted use in the same tenant space would include permanent makeup services. within one of the rooms. The owner is Lin Ku, and the proposed schedule for operation, the daily schedule would be from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and up to 3 times per month it is proposed to have events that would go until 2 a.m., specifically for dance events. The proposed use is generally considered complementary land uses. That is, the specific plan allows for the use with a use permit, and there are other gym instructional facilities also along the Lighthouse specific plan area. This is an overview of the site. The site is right here. There's a driveway which goes to a rear parking lot off of Lighthouse Avenue, and there are some residential areas over here. There is a restaurant here, another gym here. There's a tenant within this space that is secondhand thrift store, and across the street include other various commercial uses. Another angle on the site, you can see some loading bay door type of things in the back, and none of these go directly into the tenant space. These are secondary doors, which are a little bit further up on the property. As an overhead view, the tenant would be on the left side here, and it would be roughly over here. The space is a little over 1,100 square feet, between 1,100 and 1,200 square feet. And the space, somewhat is indicated here, there is some building buffer space over here. There's an existing tenant here, and this brick wall here is partially built into the landscape. And there are 2 entrance doors here. There's also a rear exit door, which goes into a building communal hallway in the back right. And the space would include a fitness dance room near the front. There would be a makeup room over here, and then some office and bathroom facilities for the space. These are the 2 front entrance doors. 443. This is looking down Lighthouse Avenue towards the rest of Monterey. And here are the 2 entrance doors as well. Here you can see the hill I was kind of talking about that the building is cut into, and that there are no doorways on this side either. Some general analysis and findings from staff and the zoning administrator needs to find is that the proposed use is in accordance with the objectives of the zoning ordinance and the purposes of the zone. In this case, it's the PCLH zone district, and it allows for a variety of permitted uses, including assembly major with a conditional use permit. The proposed project must also be found to not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare of persons residing or working in or adjacent to the neighborhood of such use, and will not be detrimental to properties or improvements in the vicinity or general welfare of the city. There's an asterisk on this because there was some discussion included within the agenda report about the potential for compatibility with neighborhood uses, and some proposed conditions have been included, which we'll talk about on the next slide. The building itself, it's an enclosed building and there are no exterior improvements proposed. There is existing parking on site for 9 spaces. Within the PCLH zone district, parking and parking offered for use cannot be found to limit a use from going in. For instance, if there's a change of use, that doesn't become the limiting factor in that zone district. The use would provide recreational, instructional, and business opportunities for residents and visitors, generally, whether it be the contracted instructors or the business owner themselves. There are 5 proposed conditions on the project. I will note that these are summaries and do not include all the text of the proposed conditions, but generally, the first one is that any change to the list of amenities would require a permit amendment. For instance, if they started adding a new use that is not covered under the umbrella of what is described in their project description. Also, the doors shall remain closed when amplified sound is used. That includes the door to the rear and the 2 doors at the front of the tenant space. 3, the use shall remain compliant with the maximum noise levels required of the city. There's a 60 decibel maximum for residential properties, which would include those properties at the rear of the site, and a 65 decibel maximum for commercial areas, which includes the site itself. The hours shall be limited to no later than 10 p.m. As part of the proposed use, there would be some until 2 a.m. However, staff's condition would limit those no portion of the business to operate later than 10 p.m. And finally, that the occupancy maximum is limited to those allowed by the city's building and fire department requirements. There was originally a proposal for up to 49 individuals there, 50 people on site. And there's a existing occupancy for the building after a discussion with our building department of somewhere around 36 or less. The third finding that must be made by the zoning administrator is that the proposed use must comply with any condition as listed in the conditions of approval. And that, yeah. There were 6 public comment letters received. I have 5 here, but one was received about 20 minutes before the meeting. And there was one stop by the office. Some general concerns that were raised were about the 2 a.m. stop time and them occurring 3 times per month. There were requests for 10 p.m. stop times, 9 p.m. stop times, and the most recent one was an 8 p.m. Stop time. Additionally, a request for no gatherings at all if this would not benefit the business owner. There was general opposition to any amplified events, concerns about how 3 times per month the events would be regulated. For instance, how would the city know that there were only going to be 3 per month? There's a concern that the condition regarding doors would not apply to the front doors. And to clarify, it would indeed apply to the front doors. There was a request to deny the application, concerned about bass from noise, potential drinking on site, and quality of life. The use permit does not include the sale of alcohol or food. There's concern that the business would not create jobs for residents. Concern that the use would affect nearby property values, and concerns about parking. With that, and after the proposed conditions, staff recommends approval of the use permit with said conditions. That concludes staff's presentation. The applicant is also here as well for any questions.
So question for staff. It sounds like the dance events are still part of the application, but they would end at 10. Is that correct?
Correct. The standard, the requested operating time for the business was 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and 3 additional events that would go until 2 a.m. And staff's condition limits everything to 10 p.m. So there wouldn't be a need for tracking those additional 3.
Okay. I have a question for the applicant. Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Did you want to make a presentation before I ask a question?
I can speak a little bit and we can go into that. It'll be a lot more of what he had on his PowerPoint. First, I want to say thank you to the Monterey City staff for having me here and everybody that is here voicing their thoughts and their concerns, and anybody that is joining via Zoom. So the sole purpose of this dance studio is just to provide a space for group and fitness classes. There's not going to be any machinery or anything like that. It's solely kind of the aerobic, yoga, Zumba type of dance space. And typically the Latin classes would be like salsa type of classes. So the music that also is played, it's not really a lot of bass or anything that is kind of a club-esque sounding type of scene. So the music will only be played solely during class settings. And typically an instructor will turn off and turn on music because they need to speak to the class or teach the class. So the sound will not be amplified in a way that will be outside of the parameters within the building. I was able, knowing that I am going to be a new neighbor to the surrounding areas and knowing that, there are residents and what would that look like for them and how would they feel? And, I did take a lot of that into consideration. So what I did do was test the noise. I turned the music to a point where the highest point that I would have it to see what the sound and the level would be. And I measured it with different decibel apps. And one was a NEOSH app that I did have. So I measured in the front and I measured in the back at different times, in the morning. And I did one at 10 p.m. at night, when typically most businesses are either there's not a lot of traffic, there's not a lot of people. So it was within range of, it was in compliance with the noise performance level, which was 35 and no more than 55. So anytime it went over 55 was when a car would just drive by. So the decibel of the cars were, it exceeded anything that I had. You can't hear the music at all. And I mean, I would love to have any neighboring residents to come by and meet me and see the building. They can stand in the back. I could turn on the music, and somebody could be inside and outside and they can see for themselves. There is a parking structure in the back and there is 9 parking spaces, but that is not open to the public. It is limited to staff members, myself, or any contracted hired people that do come. So that area, which I can see that it may be a concern if, people are the backyards of the residents, there will not be anybody there in the back at any point in time of the classes or businesses or anything of that sort. And speaking on the 3 times a month, it would be rare that it would be 3. It's just when I had to propose this, I had to make sure I gave myself a little bit of flexibility. The events, they're not parties. They're not anything that have to do with alcohol or anything like. They're more of these, they're called socials. And typically they would be salsa socials. So we would have these socials where people come and they get to practice and dance to the things that they have learned. And the salsa, I've been in the salsa community for a while, and the salsa community is not known for being rambunctious or loud or drinking or anything like that. It's just, there's not a lot of space or places that have this because the community is so small. Tango communities are very small, and they have these little events called milongas, and they're similar. They're the same as socials. You come and you get to practice because otherwise sometimes you don't get to practice with people or at home. So, and these socials will not go until 2 a.m. I was being overly transparent in the fact that I may be there till 2 a.m. and my staff may be cleaning the floors, prepping the floors, because after an event, I don't see these events going no later than 12:30 at the most, and 1 to 2 times a week. And it would be 1 to 2 times a month. And it would be really rare that a third would happen. And I put a third just in case for summer months or holiday months, things like that, to offer the community a place to come and, enjoy a dance. So, at no point will the noise be loud. I will not have, there won't be people in the back area talking or, congregating or anything. It would just be within the building. And the doors will, anytime the music is on, the doors will absolutely be closed. And I will comply with everything that the city is, the ordinance of the city.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
I think we'll open it up for public comment now.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Oh, do I sit down? I'm sorry.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to open it up for public comments. People that are here, we can start with your comments. Thank you. Please state your name and then.
Sure. My name is Rob Treichler and I live adjacent to the 443 Lighthouse. What can I tell you? I actually have when I read what was online, I actually have a lot of concerns about what it's going to do to my quality of life and to my health, quite honestly. We like to spend a lot of time outside, as you can imagine. It's Monterey, right? And the idea that we somehow we're going to hear music is really frightening. And I can hear someone say that we're going to keep the doors closed, but that is just simply not credible to me. Today, as an example, you have 49 people on a square footage that looks to be about 100 square feet. Have you ever been there? CO2 levels are really high. The doors are being open, right? That's just reality, right? Who wouldn't open the door in that situation? And, you know, quite honestly, also, my wife and I have pretty demanding jobs and we like to go to bed early. So, you know, I mean, I can appreciate there's no bass, but I don't know of any dance type music that doesn't have loud bass. We're certainly concerned about early morning noise. So there's 9 spots, okay, in that commercial building. And Hawthorne, I don't know if you guys are aware, is the first street where there's no time limit on parking off from Cannery Row. So we get a lot of people that park there. At night, it's quiet. There's plenty of spots. But if you're going to have 49 people, that means you're going to have between 20 to 49 potentially cars, and they're going to be parking in that lot, and they're going to be parking on my street. And when the party's over at 2 a.m., I get to listen to them, right? And, you know, dancing, hell, my wife and I used to do ballroom dance. You get kind of rowdy after the fact, right? It's a fun night, right? What else can I tell you? I guess that's it. I struggle to see that there won't be alcohol for the same reason I can bring beer to Carmel Beach. People are going to bring alcohol to a dance event. So I struggle with that. So any questions for me?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that's here that would like to comment?
Good afternoon. My name is Rick Hartman. May I ask Ms. Q a question?
Ask who, I'm sorry?
The applicant?
I'm sorry, this is a time for public comment, so it's not really a Q&A session, just voice your
Okay.
public comment, and if zoning administrator wishes to address the applicant. she can.
Okay, I'd like to know if anybody has a definition for amplified sound. Does that include instruments or only speakers?
Please provide all your comments and then we'll address them.
All right, that was my first concern. Is there going to be live music there?
Mhm.
Second of all, the 2 a.m. stuff, I hope the city can see that that's unreasonable. I share the same concerns as my neighbor, Mr. Treichler, and having 10 to 49 people in the neighborhood at 2 a.m. is unacceptable. There's just no way that noise can't happen. Ms. Q has explained what is meant by a dance gathering, apparently a ballroom salsa type event where there might not be bass music. And then there was also another line item in the application that said there was going to be security cameras. Why does Ms. Q feel that's necessary? I'm just concerned that the vague language in the application, dance gathering, amplified music, I'd like to know a little more about what that means. But, you know, I'm all about people having a business. Sounds like a great idea. Hey, I might even go there.
Mhm.
But 2 a.m., unreasonable. We can limit it to what Matthew said, 10 p.m. is great. I don't have a problem with that. And another stipulation I'd like to see in the conditional use permit would be no instruments. We don't know if salsa will develop into a drum circle, you know, and like Mr. Treichler said, having 25 people in that room with no natural ventilation it's ridiculous to assume that the doors will remain closed. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Robin Voss. I am a resident of the city of Monterey and I have 4 kids. They range from ages 8 to 14. And personally, I don't live in the neighborhood adjacent to this business, but I'm actually really excited for something like this. It's a different sort of fitness and dance class that I think our community could benefit from. And I would be excited to bring my kids there and my family. And it would be something that's not a bar, not a nightclub,
Mhm.
but a really good option for this town. So I'm in support of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else in the room? Okay, how about online, Jennifer?
We do have comments online. I will let Spencer announce how to join online to provide public comments in case there are more viewers watching who want to join in comment.
To join the Zoom meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864 toll free. Then enter the webinar ID, which for this meeting is 160-666-5889. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name typed into Zoom. There is a 3-minute time limit for today's meeting. Please stay within that limit.
Our first commenter with the hand raised is named Tom. You should be able to unmute yourself. Tom, are you still there?
There we go. Now, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks. So first off, I just wanted to thank the gentleman that did the review of the points on the slide. It sounds like he captured a lot of the stuff that was coming in. And my name is Tom Keeney, and I live over off of Drake and Hawthorne, so I'm just a block behind where this proposed business is going to be. So I've only got a couple of things because most people have touched on it, so I don't want to be redundant. But like others, I've certainly got the concerns over the 3 times a month for the dance gathering, but specifically about how it's going to be monitored and enforced. Who's going to count the number of times, and what happens if it goes more frequently. And then I also have concerns over how the noise will be monitored and regulated. I understand the requirements, and where even the owner had proposed that she'd measured some of the sound, but I think we have to have an external monitoring source to make it legitimate. And so just understanding how that's going to be regulated, keeping the doors closed for amplified music doesn't address the customers coming and going out the doors while the music's playing. So there's probably going to be sound escaping, as well as the other gentleman had pointed out, to just a small room with lots of people for cooling reasons. The doors will get kicked open just like they do at the aerobic rooms that I go to already. And then the other thing, similar to what somebody pointed out, just the limit on the parking there with 9 spaces. Since our streets are free and used during the day, usually by the Monterey Plaza Hotel employees, at night it's open. And so if this goes late at night, we're going to hear loud talking and slamming of the car doors and starting at cars at odd hours. And so like the first gentleman said, I mean, we're there because it's peaceful and tranquil. We don't mind the barking sea lions and the seagulls and that type of stuff. It's soothing, but the loud noise, the loud talking, the loud cars, and even the distant but somewhat loud music would be very disruptive to the environment we've become accustomed to over the last 15 years. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment.
You're welcome.
The next person to talk will be Glenn Reese. Please correct me if I pronounce your name wrong.
No, you pronounced it correctly. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're on. Thank you.
Okay. The gentleman who was reading the agenda said something about the 2 p.m. curfew, if you will, was reduced to 10 p.m. I don't know if I heard that right, but that would ameliorate some of the situation. In fact, if it went till 9, I would find that more acceptable. But I'm troubled about the monitoring of this. If we have to call the police, what's the response time? I'm sure they have better things to do than come by with a decibel machine and find out if they're over the limit. So I'm concerned about the children in my complex, the property values in my complex, That's about it. Thank you. Would you, and if you'd mind, if you wouldn't mind clarifying that point about, did you lower it to 10 PM or is that still up for discussion? And 9 PM would be better, 8 PM better still. Thank you.
Thank you.
I see no further hands raised. Once
Okay.
again, if you're joined by Zoom, you can use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand if you would like to comment.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, I'd like to close public comment. To answer one of the questions about the definition of amplified music or sound. So the project site is in the Lighthouse specific plan, and within the Lighthouse specific plan, there is a definition of amplified music and sound, and I'll read it. The use of any indoor or outdoor amplified or non-amplified music, sound, or entertainment that is audible from the exterior of a building, from a separate tenant space or an adjacent property, including but not limited to the use of speakers, microphones, amplifiers, acoustic instruments, or the human voice. So given that, I have a follow-up question for the applicant. Hi. I wanted to ask if you're open to preparing a noise study from a professional acoustic engineer.
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
Wonderful. Because we do need a way to verify that this use is going to meet the noise levels, the maximum noise levels for the commercial and residential districts. I appreciate that. So I'm going to make a motion to approve to continue the application 443 Lighthouse Avenue, use permit application UP 230179 to allow an assembly major use small group assembly at such time that the applicant submits a community noise impact study from an acoustical engineer and staff has had an opportunity to amend the conditions of approval to include any recommendations from the noise study that would be required to effectively bring down the noise levels to meet the maximum allowable noise levels of 65 decibels in the commercial district and 60 decibels in the residential district. And in addition to submit an operation plan for the proposed dance events. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So the continued meeting, once it's continued and is held again, we will renotice. So you will know when that meeting is held. Thank you for coming today and submitting your comments. And let's see. I don't have any announcements. Okay, and there has been no decision that has been made, so there's nothing to appeal at this point. The application is going to be continued to a date uncertain, and I would like to adjourn the meeting.